Yeah, and all God's people said, amen. Amen. Rest. Rest. And I look out and I see a lot of people here this morning. This excites me. Look around and be excited with me. It's awesome. It's nice to not have a lot of sections null and void, and so it's good to have you guys here today. We are continuing the Source series, the source of life. We all want to find this source of everlasting life here on earth, and this life that just looks different than the world. And so we've talked about week 1 was what? Breathe. Okay, week 2 was eat. Week 3 was drink. And so we're going to find ourselves dancing in this concept of rest for the next 2 weeks, because we've got to spend at least 2 weeks on it, because we all stink at the concept of rest. We as human beings, I think it's the nature of humanity that just teaches us to not think we need it. Well, we do. And the more children I have, the more I understand it. I want to read you some info here. We're launching into rest in this sermon in this series called Source, but we're really going to talk more so this week about the concept of sleeping. It all falls under the bubble of rest, but we're talking about sleeping today. The average person sleeps 7 to 9 hours a night. What? That is not true. Found that on Google, and that is not right. If you had children, you know that stat is incorrect. I want to know who's getting 7 to 9 hours, and I want to trade lives with you. 7 to 9 hours, the average person sleeps at 9. And I started thinking about this, and this is not a very spiritual moment in my life, but I just want you to kind of think about this with me in this regard. So say you were an alien. Not saying I believe in aliens, I'm just throwing a story out for you, just so you can imagine, put yourself in this situation. Say you're an alien from outer space, and they're looking down studying these creatures called humans. How strange would it be? We are up and at 'em, and we are going. From the moment we wake up, we get in the shower, we shave, we get ready, and we go out into this world, and we're honking, and we're in traffic. We drive for an hour, we go to this place, we work, we come home, we make dinner, we eat, and then we do this thing, we go to sleep. And so how weird if you were, say, this alien from outer space looking down to these humans and watching them go into this coffin coma-like state for 7 hours. How weird would that be if you were just watching this unfold?
Really weird.
Really? Thank you, JB. I have one support here. We'll get you back to another Cowboys game soon enough, buddy, for that one right there.
All right.
And I'm telling you all this because the whole concept, we're going to talk about this idea of what God is probably saying to us and trying to say to us in this thing that we have to do called sleep. We don't do this enough. We don't stop and say, God, what are you speaking to me in this concept called breathing? I breathe you in every single moment. What are you speaking to me? Through our consumption of food, through our eating and gathering and consuming, we are eating Jesus in every bit of life, and we don't even think about it. And then we get to this concept of drinking and how Jesus teaches us to consume Him. He is the living water. And then we'll become a tributary. We'll become a source of this living water. So what is it? What is it that God is trying to teach us in this concept, in this idea, in this necessity? Sleep. The 7 hours of this coma-like state. But what's real cool about this state is that ultimately you are the most out of control you can be. You are completely out of control. How many of you, though, are real graceful sleepers? Do we have graceful sleepers in here? No, not very many. How many of you are and we got any snoring sleepers in here? Anybody? Don't be shy. Don't be shy. I've been on some retreats with some of you, and I leave the room. We got any droolers? That's me. I'm a drooler. I wake up, and you would have thought that I drank 2 bottles of water right on my pillow. But we've got we all sleep in these different ways, and we all have different types of of ways that we sleep. By the age of 78, the average person has slept 25 years of their life. 25 years of your life. So you get what the concept, if you look at a life on a blip real quick, a third of that life is sleeping. What is God saying to us? What is He trying to teach us in this concept? So, as we jump into this, I believe there's something to be said about being vulnerable in the state of sleep. Because we're really at a state of just being and not at a state of doing. When you find that pillow, when you find that comfort, when you find that sleep, you're really just ultimately at a state of being and saying, hey, I'm breathing right now because this is how God made me. I'm not doing this on purpose because I'm out dreaming about something. It's a state of being and not doing. And I think we need to find ourselves in that, church. The whole point of this message, get to the source. We've got to be receivers. We've got to keep telling ourselves that. Before we can go and do it, we've got to rest in who we are to be. And that's receive this life in Christ. There's something to be said about this. Why did God make it this way? The question that we're asking all throughout the series is, why did God make us this way? There's something spiritual about this concept. We're going to talk in Genesis 1. Okay? You know this. Everyone's heard this story. We hear this story all the time. But I hope and pray it slaps you in the face like it did me this week. In the midst of a very, very crazy time of the Glover family's life. It smacked me in the face. And I enjoy a good smack in the face. That could be weird. Genesis 1. Let me read this. Get this going for you. Could there be something sacred and holy about our need and dependence for rest? Is there something sacred that God built into this rhythm of sleeping and this rhythm of life? The story of creation in verse 1, it says, in the beginning when God created the heavens and the earth was without form or shape, with darkness over the abyss, and a mighty wind. We talked about that in our first series, a mighty wind, the Spirit of the Lord, the wind of the Lord, the Ruach of the Lord, was hovering over everything. Then God said, let there be light. And there was light. God saw that the light was good. God then separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness He called night. All right, and then the verse that we're really going to kind of nail home on this is in verse 5. God called the darkness night. Evening came. Can we put that scripture up there, please? Evening came and morning followed the first day. Evening came and morning followed the first day. You should just have a slide where it says evening came and morning followed. If not, I don't care. You can just turn off the computer.
Got it.
Evening came and morning followed the first day. So He continues. Okay? He continues. He continues. Verse 6 through 8. The next day He created sky and the waters below. And then in verse 8, after He created this, He said, evening came and morning followed the second day. The second day. And then verse 19 through 13. Okay, that's where He began to separate the water and the dry land. And things began to produce. You started seeing life coming from the ground and the trees. Things started to produce, 9 through 13. And then in verse 13 it says, evening came. You got to hear this. In verse 13 it says, evening came and morning followed the third day. The third day. And then He goes on into 14. We're working into the fourth day, guys, if you understand where we're going. And this is where He set up this whole governing concept of time in His creation. In verse 14, then God said, let there be lights in the dome of the sky to separate day from night. Let them mark the seasons, the days and the years, and serve as lights in the dome of the sky to illuminate the earth. And so it happened. God made two great lights, the greater one to govern the day, and the lesser one to govern the night, and the stars. God set them in the dome of the sky to illuminate the earth, to govern the day and the night, and to separate the light from the darkness. God saw that it was good. And in verse 19, he says, evening came and morning followed. The fifth day. The fourth day, I'm sorry. Evening came and morning followed, the fourth day. Then verse 23, creation of water, animal, and the birds. And then in 23, he says, evening came and morning followed, the fifth day. Evening came and morning followed, the fifth day. And then, in verse 26, things get a little different. God said, let's do something a little different. Verse 16, he said, then God said, let's make human beings in our image, after our likeness. Let them have dominion over the fish in the sea, the birds and the air, and the tame animals, all the wild animals, and all the creatures that crawl on the earth. God created mankind in His image. God blessed them. And God said to them, be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth, have dominion over the fish in the sea. And then in verse 31, God looked at everything He had made. He looked at everything He had made and found it not just good, He said very good. After He handcrafted man, He said it was very good. And then He said evening came and morning followed. The sixth day. Now a lot of you are like, man, Drew, I've heard this creation story. I understand that God created all these things in 6 days, and then you're about to tell us that He rested on the seventh day. What are you getting at? I feel you. When I was prepping for this, I almost was feeling the same thing. Until this concept of evening came and morning followed. Something I didn't know and something that I have begun to study on is that the concept of time and Hebrew time. And I want you to hear this because it's very powerful. A day in Hebrew time was sunset, was sundown to sun up. So, when the sun went down in the evening, that was the beginning of a new day. Is your mind being blown right now? So their time was set up as the sun went down, was the marking of a new day. And then when the sun went down again, there's your next one. Because we see that in what they say after what God says. Evening came, and morning followed. The fifth day, sixth day. They started their day by going to sleep. We just sang, God, you are great forever and forever. You are the beginning and the end. We're celebrating God for this concept. Do we think God has changed? Was there a typo? Was there something? Did they just mess it up? Did the writers of this scripture, did they just put it in wrong? No. He's saying this is how I created it. This is how I created it. They started the day by going to sleep. In a sense, they kind of started the day by getting out of the way. Whew. Guys, this is going to be good. I'm excited where we're going right now. I hope you know this. Because this was powerful for me. This is powerful. Humankind shows up the sixth day. God says it's all done. I've done the work. Now it's time for us to rest. There's a quote that I got online. Eugene Patterson. He's an older pastor, so I have respect for him. And he says this. It's real simple. He tweeted this about a year and a half ago. He said, "This is what I've learned. In prep for the day, I go to sleep to get out of the way for a while." How many times in our life have we said, "I've got so much to do, I can't sleep"? I know I'm not the only one who's felt that way. I've got so much on my mind that I can't sleep. There's a Jewish writer that wrote this concept of morning and night that I want you to hear. He said, beginning the day with night is in sense a metaphor for life itself. Listen to this, church. Life begins in the darkness of the womb. So life begins in the darkness in the night. Then bursts into the brightness of the light. then eventually settles into the darkness of the grave, which in turn is followed by a new dawn in the world to come. So this concept of time that God set up this way, starting the day with night and sleep, could it be a daily reminder of how we are created and this life that He created for us? This concept of dying and burial, so that to experience this resurrection. All of us got on this planet by moving from evening to morning. From a place of darkness, restedness in the womb, to a place of life. Is God trying to remind us of this? I believe He is, and I think He's trying to remind us of this on a daily basis. I want you to hear this. What we've done as a modern society, to this concept of time, to this rhythm of sleep, to this rhythm of life that I believe God created and said, I made it this way. Your rhythm of your breath, your consumption of food, your need for drinking, and this need and desperation for sleep. I made it this way. I created this rhythm of life for a purpose, so that you can find me in every bit of it. So you can find me in every bit of it. But what have we done? What do we do in this modern society? What do? We cheat. We cheat. I wrote this down. The sun goes down and the lights come on. We cheat. We're not good at following this rhythm that God set up. Technology nowadays, we can find ourselves completely exhausted in the comfort of our bed, very comfortable. We've got our feather pillow ready to go, and our comforters pulled up real tight. They're freshly cleaned. We've gone all day, and we're so ready for that time of rest, for that sleep. We are so ready to get in that comfortable bed after a long day. Am I the only one? So we get in there, and then we distract ourselves with a flaming rectangular box. Whether it be a computer, our phones, or a TV on the wall, whatever it can be, we mess up this rhythm that God has created us to make divine music. We mess up this rhythm because we feel exhausted, we are exhausted, and then we go and we stare at a fire in a square. No wonder we can't find rest and sleep. We don't care to adhere to any type of rhythm that was created at the very beginning. The sun goes down and the lights come up. We don't ever respect the rhythm of this universe. Even in our way we view time, we almost view time as a resource, not a gift. Time is money. Time is valuable. Don't waste my time. Turn it into something that God intended from the beginning for us to see that it's a gift. So what is it? What are you saying, Drew? Sleep. What sleep before? What are you talking about? Genesis 2. He continues. He finishes this creation story in Genesis 2. And I believe this is where we find the foundation of our existence. In these first three scriptures, it says in verse 1, thus the heavens and the earth and all that were in it was complete. And on the seventh day, God completed the work He had done and He had been doing. He rested on the seventh day from all the work He had undertaken. God's saying the work is done. I've been doing it all. The work is done. Now it's time for you to rest. God blessed the seventh day and made it holy because on it He rested from all the work He had done in creation. God rested from His work. God worked and He rested. That's how God is. That's who God is. He did not create us that way, church. God created man, human. He created us and said, hey, I've done the work, you rest. Primarily, first day, it is time to sleep. You are here. The first part of your day is to go to sleep. I've created you. I've done the work. It's time for you to rest. God created man and human so that we would work from a place of rest. But instead, we've messed the whole rhythm up, haven't we? We feel like we have to earn our rest by the hard work we do in the day. Right. The morning's here. It's time for us to get to work. You guys understand, the image and the way that we view our life is ultimately the way that we view God. And if we view our life by saying, hey, it's time for us to wake up and go to work, saying, God, I can earn my rest tonight. Don't get me wrong, I believe in our hard day's work, so don't think I'm standing up here giving you trite poetry. But I'm trying to say to you something a little more deeper than that. I'm trying to talk to you on a level that I believe God set up from the beginning, that we can learn from, that we can receive from. We say if we work hard enough, we can earn our rest. God says that's not how you are made. That is not how I wired you. He says the first thing you're called to do is enter into rest because I have done the work. This is the foundation of your being. This is the foundation of your being. Evening came and morning followed. On the next day. Evening came and morning to follow on the next day. He says, I want you to receive from a resting place. I want you to understand that you came from the darkness of the womb. That was day one. Receive this rest, he says. What we do is we really turn ourselves into glorified slaves, in my opinion. When we wake up and we say, you know what, hey, and I don't know who you're slaving for. Some of you may be sitting out there, you've been slaving all your life for God. You've been a slave for Christ your entire life, and you've woken up and you've said, oh man, I've neglected so many other things in my life. Some of you are working so hard in your career, whatever the place may be, I need to get to this neighborhood, I need to get to this vehicle, I need to have this career, I need to have this job, I need to have this income. We're slaving to so many things because we wake up to work. And we don't wake up to rest. That's good. Somebody needs to give me an amen on that. We wake up to work and not rest in what God has done and how He's built this whole thing. God didn't make us to be His glorified slaves. This is what I want you to hear. God is saying you are sons and daughters. So the first thing to do on the first day of your existence is to rest in all that I've done. Did you hear that? God is screaming all through Scripture. You are sons and daughters. I didn't plant you here to work the garden. I placed you here to eat from the garden. I didn't plant you here so that you have to make all the rivers flow to the right place. I planted you here so that you can drink from it. I created you so that you can receive me, so that you can then go and create me. But we immediately get into, I'm not doing enough. I'm not doing enough for the Lord. I'm not doing enough for my family. I got to get to this. I got to do this. And I got to succeed here. I need to do better here. I got to get my degree here. I need to finish this here. I got to do this here. We go and we go and we go. And we never realize that God said, hey, first, you need to get a good night's stinking sleep. Before you go and do it, before you go and succeed succeed, before you do all these things that I created you, and by all means, you have the power of me inside you and you can do it, I need you to get a good night's sleep in my arms, in my comfort, in my unconditional love.
Amen.
But what have we done? We've gone and gone to work so that we can then walk to the bed at the end of the night and say, God, dude, do I deserve a place? Can I sleep in your comfort tonight? Man, I didn't do enough. I could have invited that guy. Could I? Do I get a spot in your comfort tonight? We feel our whole existence, we feel our heart, our spirit so tired, and then we lay in bed and watch TV until we go to sleep. What is he teaching us about this rhythm? God is saying to your sons and daughters, and the first thing you need to do is get a good night's sleep. We work, we try to earn our value, don't we? Sons and daughters, and this is powerful, and I need you to hear this. Sons and daughters have value not by what they produce, but by who has produced them. I'm going to say it again, and I need at least 3 more amens. Because a lot of you are sitting here and you've tried to produce your whole life. A lot of you are sitting here and you try to produce in your week maybe just a good enough reason for you to be here today. A lot of you are trying to go and do and produce for a kingdom that's already taken care of. We live like we don't even believe that He's got it already taken care of. So we go and do, and we think, hey, we've got to go do so that His kingdom can fully come full circle. No! His kingdom's going to come full circle whether you do anything or not.
Amen.
So why are we here? Why are we created? And we find this in the foundation of Genesis. The Hebrews think they thought this was divine word. In the first chapter, there's people that will tell you, you can see so much of who God is and who He intended us to be in the first chapter of Genesis. And we see that we were made to receive from Him. Yeah, we're called to produce fruit. But that's not our value. You're valued because you are a son and a daughter, not a slave. Do you hear that, church? It's good. Are we owning the fact that we are sons and daughters who we inherit this kingdom? We have a seat at this kingdom. We have a seat at that table. Doesn't matter how far you're running, you've run, or maybe your neighbor's running. They just need to be reminded that they got a seat. Try to produce and to achieve. We don't realize it. We don't say to ourselves, I'm just made in the likeness of God. God delights in me. I know I found myself in my life sometimes trying to produce to show that I'm not a mistake. I'm not the only one that hears that voice. Hey, God, I preached a pretty good message today. I'm not a mistake. Hey, I was at a funeral the other day. I'm not a mistake. Sometimes we try to produce and do things. You may be sitting there right now and saying, yeah. Just trying to justify, God, you didn't make a mistake when you made me. I want you to hear God's voice today, and I want you to hear Him because He's yelling at you saying, hey, you are valuable not because of what you produce for me, ever. You are valuable because of who you are and who produced you. I delight in you. Come delight in me. We'll never achieve our way to acceptance. God is saying you're already accepted. You're a son, not a slave. I want to show you a picture of my kids real quick. Some pictures I think will pop up, maybe. They're just going to scroll through. Those children don't produce much for me. Annabelle's starting to produce a little bit. She can help with a diaper every so often, maybe taking the dog out. But my youngest son, he don't produce really jack. Not one bit, actually. He does like to open the door. He's figured that out, so he wants to run in and open the door. I could probably coach him up really good on how to pick up all of his blocks. He'll pick up like 6 of them. I'll pick up the rest. They don't produce hardly anything. They actually cost a whole lot. A whole lot. I should have asked some of you how much kids cost before we started that journey. Talk to us before you began. Amen. They can open doors. They can flush toilets sometimes. No telling what you're going to find in there, really. No telling. Box can put some shoes on it, depending on the right strap. They don't produce much. But I don't delight in them because of what they produce. Not one bit. If I did, there wouldn't be much to life. There'd be a lot of big things. My question for you, church, is: are you letting God love you like an Abba Father? Are you letting Him teach you like an Abba Father? Are you hearing Him when He says, hey, I need you to sleep first? I need you to get a good night's sleep first. I need you to understand that I set this rhythm up just like this, so that you can receive me first. Glad those kids' pictures aren't up there. We're spoiled jerks anyways. They don't do anything. They don't produce anything except a bunch of messes all the time. As soon as we clean one room, the other room's dirty. That love I have for my kids, it pales in comparison to the love God has for all of us. And yet we still... Hey, I'm challenging you this week. I'm challenging you this week. May your day start with a good night's rest. I need it. Rest it with. Some of you are out here, and you need it too. You may be sleeping a whole lot. Now hear me. Some of you don't need to sleep 12 hours a day now. Maybe you're getting a lot of sleep right now, but that's still not what I'm saying. It's not about the amount of sleep. It's about approaching your day in the rest of our Heavenly Father. Understand that He said, hey, I created this for this moment. I created you to sleep first. To rest first. I've done it all. I've done it. You don't have to go make a fort in this beautiful garden just because it's there. You don't have to go and do just because you're here. Just because I made you doesn't mean you have to go and do. I first want you to sleep in the arms of your Father. You have to find that rest. We have to find that rest, church, or this concept of Christianity, we will kill ourselves. working from a place of rest. What are we doing? I'm going to pray. We're going to come to the table, and I pray as you come and receive communion this morning, maybe you can challenge yourself, challenge your friend next to you. Say, hey, get some good sleep this week. Let's pray together. Heavenly Father,